let's talk about using graphics or titles inside of the TriCaster. The TriCaster has several ways of creating titles. Let's take a look at a few of them. Our overlay section in the interface is right over here, and the overlay section allows us to choose 4 different sources to use as overlays over our video. We can use our text tab, we can use either of our DDRs, or we can use an external source such as NewTek's live text software, which can be run externally. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's start out with the text tab. We'll come down here and we'll click on the text tab in the interface, and the text tab is a template-based CG. So I can use this pop-up list right here, and we'll go ahead and open this list. Now we can mouse over the pre-made title templates inside of this list, and we get a small thumbnail preview of what each one of these titles is going to look like. We have a large variety of them. I'm using the scroller wheel on my mouse here to move down through the list. And they're segmented into categories: holiday, film, event, education, commercial, full-page billboards, things along those lines. And then, of course, lower thirds as we get down here into the list, and a variety of other types of titles and CGs. I'm going to go ahead and load up a lower third. And as soon as I click on one of the templates, it shows up in my template list right down here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and load up a few different types just so that we have some variety to work with. And I'm going to come over here, and we have some vignette style graphics, some graphics where video can show through, takes up a little bit more of the screen. We have some sidebar type vignettes. We also have, of course, full page graphics as well. Now, once I get my graphics or my templates loaded into the template list here that I want to use, I can begin to modify them. I click on the template, and it shows up in my text preview window over here. Anything that I mouse over in this window that highlights is editable. So I simply mouse over the text and I left click. Now I type and I hit enter to go ahead and make that change. Again, I can click on the subheading. And in this particular lower third, the graphic also highlights when I mouse over it. And this means that I can change the graphic as well. Simply click on the graphic and I can load any graphic to replace it. You do need to know that it is going to stretch or squash your graphic into the aspect ratio of the original graphic. So if you want to maintain the look without stretching or squashing your video or your image that you're adding to this template, you want to crop it ahead of time to match the aspect ratio of what you're replacing. I'll go ahead and select an image, and this text is now ready to go. Now, we can get through all of the templates that we currently have loaded in our list down here by using these arrow keys. I can also double-click on any of the title templates in my list here, and they will become the main active title. You know that it's the active title when it shows up in the overlay preview window right here. So once I get my title in place, and this is the one that I want to use, I'm ready to go ahead and either fade it up or take it up. Now, don't confuse this take button with this take button. The take and the auto button over here are for executing transitions between video sources, and the fade and the take button over here are for fading or cutting our overlays on and off over the top of our video. Go ahead and click the fade button and we'll fade up our overlay. Now, one very important thing to notice is I did not have to leave the live production environment in order to create this graphic. I was able to, while I was live on camera, change the text, set it up, and execute it as an overlay without having to stop the live production. This is very important. This means I can make titles on the fly, and these are live editable title templates. So if someone showed up at your production and you didn't have a title made for them and they were walking to the stage, you can literally have a title made for them by the time they get to the stage. Now, as I said, there are a wide variety of styles here. We have vignette style graphics, and we have full page graphics, and a wide variety. But we're never going to be able to give everybody exactly what they want in a selection of templates. Maybe we work for a television station and we're mandated to use a specific graphics package. We can import imagery into the templates. If we pop our list open and we go all the way to the top of the list, we have a selection called Add Image. And this selection will allow me to add any image, and if that image has an alpha channel or a transparency, say it's a ping or say it's a Target 32, then the TriCaster can take advantage of that alpha channel and it can be used as an overlay. The only caveat here is it will not be a title template. It's not a live editable title template. It's simply an image that we've imported from another package. Now you can take your graphics and create your own title templates or create title templates from scratch by using our Edit Text tab. The Edit Text tab launches a full-blown CG. Now you do have to do this either in pre or post because this does exit out of our live production environment. When we're working in the TriCaster, we have our 4 main tabs up here, and Live Production is the tab we're in now. If I exit out to Edit Media or Edit Text, you'll see that my interface output will go blank and will then represent what we're working on in either of those applications. Let's go into Edit Text. Edit Text brings us to a full-blown character generator built into the TriCaster. This will allow us to import graphics from other packages and create our title templates. We can also create title templates from scratch. We can also create motion titles. We can do scrolls and crawls inside of our Edit Text tab. And the Edit Text tab also comes with a wide variety of pre-made templates. So we can simply pop open the list of pre-made templates. Again, we'll get a little thumbnail of each one as we mouse over it. And these are great to use as a jumping off point to create your own graphics. Now I'm going to go ahead and select a template to modify, and we're going to go ahead and select a lower third style template. So let's come down here to our lower thirds. And again, I can simply click on a lower third and it shows up. And from within the title template, I have the ability to not only change the text like I can in the live editable title templates, but now I can modify size, I can modify font, shape, color, a lot of things that I can't do in the live production environment. So I can simply select my selection tool and select any element of this graphic, and I now have complete control over the element for changing size, for changing style, and anything else I might want to do. Again, we have a tab-based interface down here, and this allows us to go through our viewing options, our text and drawing tools and options, our color selection for creating either solid colors or gradients. We have a variety of predetermined font styles, and again, if I select an element of text, I can now just click on any of these predetermined font styles to change the look of that text to match my predetermined text. We also have a file bin, and from this file bin I can access any drive attached to the computer, or I can also again hook up external drives such as a USB or a FireWire drive or a thumb drive and access those, and I can import graphics from any other package to use inside of the CG. Now the CG, as far as importing graphics, is only going to import still graphics, and we can't use video clips inside of the CG. The only motion that we have inside of our CG is for scrolls or crawls. Now we also have a full layering system here, so as we create graphics, we can create and move the layers to the foreground and the background and create some very detailed graphics. We also have the ability to group and ungroup these graphics. So once we create a scenario and we're happy with it, I could go ahead and select all of the graphics, I can group them, and now I can move this entire thing as a group, and at any point if I want to make changes to it, I can simply ungroup them and I have all of the individual pieces available for editing once again. Let's go ahead and we're going to use this graphic as it sits right now, and let's go ahead and take this graphic, we'll group it again and move it back down here. And we're also going to make a scroll. I'm going to click here to this blank page, and to make a scroll I'm going to use my text tool and come down here. Now it looks like the text is real big right now, so again I can go to text and drawing, and I've got my height, but I have them locked using the locked aspect ratio button. So I can go ahead and I can size that down, and I get a preview over here of what the text is going to look like. And I want to have an edge on the text, so I'm going to turn on. You have several types of edges, bevel, squares, or round. I'm just going to go with a round edge. We also have shadow. I'm also going to turn shadow on. We can do three types of shadows: a cast, a drop, or a soft. I'm going to do a cast shadow, and the little color swatch next to it is the color of the shadow. And right now the default color is almost completely transparent. So I'm going to click on it, and now I can determine the color of the shadow. I'm simply going to take the alpha channel, the A control here is my alpha channel, and I'm going to turn it all the way up. And then I'm going to click on this color swatch. And let's go ahead and bring this down and then drag my little control area down here because I want to have a black drop shadow. Now 255 is completely opaque. Let's go down to about maybe 190. Give it a little bit of transparency, but it's still going to show up nicely in our graphic. I'm now ready to start typing my crawl along the bottom of the screen. Again, when you work with a CG, two boundaries here. The inner boundary is our safe area for our text, and the outer boundary is our safe area for our videos. So whenever we're creating titles, we want to make sure that we're inside of our title safe area. Now I'm ready to type out my text. This is a crawl created with the NewTek TriCaster using the Edit Text application. Now, right below down here, I can select the motion type, no motion, or which way it's going to be traveling. I want this to travel from right to left. Now, I can come over to my playback controls and hit play, and it will give me a preview of what this is going to look like, and I can see right off the bat that it's very, very slow. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And right here, I have a slider for motion speed. So I'm going to bring that up to about 3.5 and then try to play it back again. And that's a little bit more what I was looking for. Again, I can go back and tweak it and get exactly the speed that I'm looking for. Once I'm happy with the speed, I can choose an end behavior. And the end behavior is it going to loop over and over again? Is it going to stop after it passes by the screen one time? Or is it going to go back to its default position and start over again, but not start, just be in the start position? Or is it going to loop the last frame? I'm going to go ahead and set it for over, so it just crawls across the screen and ends, and that's now ready. Now again, I can come up here to my selection tool, select the text, and pick for it. Come back to my text and drawing, make sure that I still have my shadow turned on. You'll notice that my outline is turned to a red outline. And outlines have two colors as well. It has an inner color and an outer color. So I'm just going to go ahead with the defaults from the preset and let it go with the look that we have right there. That looks pretty good. So now I have two pages in my current C project. I have the crawl up here at the top. I have my lower third graphic here. Let's say I want to do a scroll. If I just click down here in an unused area, it creates a new page for me. And now I want to do a scroll, so again, I take my text tool and I can type out my credit roll. So producer is Carlo, talent is Don, and so forth. Now, I'm going to go to my selection tool and left click and drag over all of these. And using my alignment tools, I can now center them all up exactly where I want them to be. And again, I want this to come from the bottom to the top, so I'm going to choose my direction, I'm going to choose my speed, and I'm going to test it out and see what it looks like. And that looks pretty good for what I was looking for. Again, if I want to change the style, I can simply go to Style and pick a different style for it if we want to. I'm going to use the same style we used over on our crawl. Now I can make as many pages in here as I want, and once I get all my pages set up, I can of course save the project so that the project can be reloaded later for modification. I can of course load a project that has been saved, and I can save the project as a different project with save as, and of course start a new project. Now the next two buttons are very important. We have the ability to export a page out to the live production environment or export the project out to the live production environment. And if I'm going to export a page, it's whatever page is currently selected. It's going to be the one that's exported. Now I want to go ahead and export the entire project. So I'm going to say export project for live, and it's going to say there's a project that already exists. Do you want to replace it? Which means we would get rid of what's currently out there that was exported from the edit text application, or we can leave what's out there and append that with the new pages coming from this project. So I'm going to go ahead and append, and the scrolls and crawls need to be rendered. So these will actually be rendered out as pieces of video, and then whatever still graphics we have in here are going to be instantly exported as live editable title templates. Let's go back into our live production environment. When I'm going to exit, it asks me if I want to save the project that I'm working on. And again, if you haven't saved it using the Save button up here, you can click Save here, and then this project will reload the next time you enter the Edit Text tab. We're going to go all the way up to the top, and we have our text page, and we can see the CGs that we created here. I simply click on one, it shows up in my list. It's now an editable title template. Now there's another thing that it does when we export out to live. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And here's another bug that I made in the CG. So again, I bring this up using the text tab as my input, and we can fade that up, and we can see that we've got a little graphic up there over my head. Now one thing that I can do is I can use this as a live set. When we export from edit text, it also exports live sets. So we're going to go to the Input Setup tab, and we're going to go ahead to the Scene pop-up and choose Edit Text Desktop. We're then going to choose that same graphic, and now with live set turned on, it pops in over my head. Now the interesting thing about it is now completely independent of any other graphic that I have in the system that I can use over here as my overlay. So we can now fade this up independently from the other graphic. This means I could use this as a way of creating a bug that would stay down in the lower corner or wherever I positioned it as a live set. This means we can use what we generated as our live set as a permanent bug. It's always going to be on that input all the time. It means I can't use a virtual set, but again, just trying to show you the flexibility and usability of the system in all of its different possible configurations. Use that live set as our bug, and we can still use our text overlay or our overlay area to independently fade graphics up and down, not affecting that permanent bug because it's on there as a live set. Now we can use other sources besides the live editable title templates inside of our overlay area. We can also use either one of our DDRs or an external source. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's look at the DDRs. The DDRs allow us to use motion overlays. So if you happen to use other products and you want to create motion overlays in other applications, not a problem. You will be able to import them and use them inside of the DDR as a motion graphic with transparency and use them in the overlay area. I'm going to go to DDR number 2, and I'm going to add a clip that's got some alpha channel in it. I'm going to go ahead and set it up as the clip that I want to use. Let's bring up DDR number 2 as our. Now I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have selection turned on. I have the clip selected. I have loop turned on, so it just loops. It doesn't stop after it's done playing. And I can even use Q mode here. We're going to turn Q mode on. And because I have DDR number 2 selected up here in the overlay, when I hit the take button, Q mode is going to activate and play that DDR. So either take or fade. We'll just go ahead and hit fade. Now, because we had Q turned on in the DDR, it automatically rolled the tape for us, or rolled the DDR for us, started our graphic playing, gives us a full motion graphic overlaid over the top of our video. Again, this can be any full motion graphic. It could be created inside of the TriCaster, either in the editor inside of the TriCaster, or again, the scrolls and crawls that we created earlier can also be used this way. Go down to the DDR and click on Add, and when I saved out the project from Edit Text, it went into my CG folder. I've got a shortcut to CGs right here. If I click on it, they show up, and here are the CGs that we saved out. So here's my scroll, here's my crawl. I'm going to select both of those, click on Open to bring them in. I now have them in here as well. And again, I click on it, I'm in Select and Loop. We have Q turned on, DDR is selected as my source. I simply hit Fade, and we now have our scroll and our crawl available to us as well. We can also use the external input. Again, we've got the external input. This is how we brought in our computer, if you remember, over here. And the external input is used when we're using an external software application called Live Text. Live Text is basically the Edit Text tab broken out into a standalone piece of software which runs on an external computer. Again, once connected to the same network as the TriCaster, the output of Live Text can be brought in as an overlay source used in the overlay section of the TriCaster, and this can be done during a live presentation. So you could have someone running the titles and the CG externally outside of the TriCaster, and again the TriCaster operator has the ability to bring those graphics in like any other input into the TriCaster. We're going to do a separate video on Live Text, so for more information on that product, please make sure you watch that. Another tab available to us inside of the TriCaster is the Capture tab. This is how we can manually capture footage into the TriCaster either through the analog inputs or using FireWire. Let's take a look. We're going to go into the Capture Media tab. Now, from within Capture Media, we can capture from the DV input, so you can hook up a DV device, a camcorder or a DV deck via FireWire. These DV camera controls will become active and allow us to control that external device, play, pause, fast forward, rewind, jog shuttle, all that sort of stuff. We can choose to come in through the YC input, the composite input, the component input, or, depending upon your TriCaster, the SDI input. Now, we're always using input number 1. No matter what input we're coming in on, of course DV is through the FireWire port, but everything else is coming in through input number 1. We have the ability to select whether we're capturing only audio, only video, or both. If we're doing audio only, we can choose which audio input we're coming in through. Microphone, which is the audio input number 1, or again, depending upon the version of the TriCaster you have, you could be coming in SDI. Now, we also can name. We have a little gauge showing us how much hard drive space we have left. Down in the bottom portion of the section, this is where the clips are going to be captured to. So simply navigate to wherever you want the clips to end up, and this is where you're going to be capturing the clips to. Once we're all set, we're ready to capture, stop, and a pause button. We also have the ability to grab a still image from video playing back into the input that we're capturing from by clicking on the picture button. Once we've captured our media and it's inside of the TriCaster, we're ready to either use it in our live production environment or with SDI 1 selected, I simply hit the capture button and I'm now capturing the video into the TriCaster. Again, at any point in time, if I wanted to grab a still image, I can hit the picture button and I instantaneously get a JPEG still image pulled from the video into wherever I've navigated and told the TriCaster to save my captures. Once I'm done capturing, I simply hit the stop button and that clip shows up in my bin as well. Very often when we do portable live production, we also need to be able to bring in an external computer as a source into our switch. It could be a PC or a Mac. Someone may want to play back a PowerPoint presentation or even do some sort of software training. It means we have to get a scan converter and convert that computer signal into a video signal. The video signal would then take up one of the inputs coming into my switcher. With the TriCaster, any computer that's connected to the same network as the TriCaster can show up as an input in the TriCaster. When you opened your TriCaster, there was a small box inside of the TriCaster box which contained some adapters and a disk. On that disk, you'll find a piece of software called IVGA. IVGA is the client software that we want to load onto the external computers that are going to show up as an input in the TriCaster. We simply copy IVGA to that computer and we run the IVGA software. You'll know that IVGA is running because you'll see a small color bar television show up in the icon tray in the lower right-hand corner of the PC. Once we have the computer connected to the network and we have IVGA running on that external computer, we go to our External tab. Inside the External tab, we have a small production router. This allows us to actually connect to 3 computers simultaneously and instantly switch between those 3 computers. Let's go ahead and connect to my external laptop. We're going to pop the list open and I can see all of the computers that are running IVGA. I'm going to go ahead and select my laptop. My laptop instantly shows up in my external preview monitor and is now available. If I bring up external on preview and execute a switch, we're now seeing the PowerPoint being displayed from my laptop. I can now run the laptop and it is brought into my video presentation like any other input. Now remember, now that we have our external computer source coming in as an input, we treat it like any other input in the TriCaster. If you're working with a TriCaster that has live set technology, we can now use that on the effects row and we can key any of our green screen talent over the top of that PowerPoint, or if we have our talent inside of a virtual set, we can put the external input on the effects row and that will put the PowerPoint or our external computer display on the on-screen monitor inside of the virtual set. You can see that some of the controls inside the External tab are ghosted out, and these are the controls for IVGA overlay and our output to VGA. These controls are ghosted when a second monitor or a projector is not hooked up to the second VGA output from the video card. Let's go ahead and hook up an output to that second VGA out from our video card. Now that we have our second VGA output connected, this is the program out VGA version, we can see that our controls have come to life. We now have the ability to do what's called an IVGA overlay. So if we bring in the external computer just as a source and we switch to it, this is being scan converted. Now, if you are using a projector to do a presentation to a large live audience, then we can do something called an IVGA overlay to sharpen the image on the projector only. Now we can come down here under IVGA overlay and we can either do a take to cut it onto the screen or we can fade it up and down on the screen. And what you'll notice when we engage IVGA overlay is we get a rock solid version of the output of the computer on our secondary VGA output. So again, the people in the room that are looking at the projector would see a pristine version of the PowerPoint presentation. The video output and the stream are unaffected. So you could continue to roll a video production, switching between cameras and inputs and rolling the PowerPoint presentation in for the people watching on the stream or the people that get maybe a DVD of the recorded output later. But the people in the room see an absolute pristine version of that IVGA source on their projector. Now again, this can be faded up and down over top of the projector at like any other input. So you could be doing a switch and then just go ahead and hit the fade button and it's going to fade that up right over the top. It's going to look like any other transition in the TriCaster and then you can fade it back down. Again, this is for the projector output only. We also have our output to VGA controls. We have the ability of setting the output resolution of that second VGA output from our video card. So what we can use this for is, if we can determine what the native resolution of our projector that we're hooking up is, we can set the TriCaster's output to match that native resolution. Then we can go into the menu of the projector and we can turn the scaler off in the projector. This will reduce the latency that we get when using a TriCaster for doing something like image magnification. The latency out of a TriCaster is 2 to 4 frames, but this latency can be reduced by gen-locking your cameras and using SDI cameras and SDI projectors. We also have the ability to key a presentation. This means I could create, say, a green square in a PowerPoint presentation, and then frame a camera up so that when I key that green square out, I have the head of the person giving the PowerPoint presentation inside of the PowerPoint presentation. We also have the ability to do a little bit of positioning and cropping on this, and we can adjust brightness, contrast, and do a little bit of video enhancement, again for the VGA output only. We do ship an adapter in the box that comes inside of the TriCaster box to adapt the DVI output on the back of the TriCaster to a standard 15-pin VGA computer cable. Now, when working with IVGA on the external computer, we also have a few options with IVGA itself. IVGA shows up in the icon bin down in the right-hand corner, and it is this little color bar television. I can tell it's active because the color bars are moving across it. If it was just running but not connected to a TriCaster, those bars would not be moving. Now, if you right-click on IVGA itself, you get some options. And we have some setup options which allow us to determine which monitor on our external computer. If the computer that we are bringing in as an external source has two displays, we can choose which display we want to see. We can choose to see the mouse cursor or not see the mouse cursor. And we can also choose our network speed, and this is critical. If we're using a gigabit Ethernet connection, we definitely want to make sure that we set this up for gigabit Ethernet to give us the best possible response. This comes into play if we're going to be using videos inside of our PowerPoint, or even PowerPoints with fancy animated builds. You're going to want to have a gigabit Ethernet connection to get nice smooth video playback. And this is the way that we do that. We want to select gigabit Ethernet on the computer itself through the IVGA interface. Again, we have versions of IVGA for both Mac or PC, so once you get it loaded onto the machine, you can access those options. Another thing to remember is you don't actually have to load IVGA onto the external computer. You could actually run it from a thumb drive. So just copy IVGA to a thumb drive, put the thumb drive in a USB port, and run IVGA from the thumb drive. It will work. Then you can stop IVGA when you're done and remove the thumb drive, and you haven't had to install anything onto anyone's computer in order to use IVGA. Once we click on the Edit Media interface, this is the nonlinear editor that comes along with the TriCaster. It's a very powerful nonlinear editor that can be used for more than just editing your video. We can also use it for file format conversion or scaling your video. Let's take a look. The thing that's different about our editor than most other editors is that we have both a timeline and a storyboard. So I'm just going to start out by looking at my hard drive, and we're going to go into Media, and we're going to go find our clips wherever we have them stored on the drive. Now, one of the interesting things about this editor is that even though I haven't imported anything into the editor, we're just browsing the hard drive, I can still mouse over the clips and they will play back for me. If I'm mousing over a clip and it's playing back, if I hold down the Shift key, it will play in fast forward. If I hold down the Alt key, it will play in reverse. And if I hold down Shift and Alt, it will play quickly in reverse. So it's a real easy way of determining what your clips are and bringing them in the order that you want to bring them into the edit. But again, we can use this more than just for editing our video. For instance, let's say someone shows up at your live production with some video clips that they want to include in the production. You don't know what resolution they are or what file format they are. This editor will allow you to bring in just about any file format and just about any resolution, HD or SD. So you can simply bring a clip right into the editor will recognize it, and at this point you can just say you want to render it. And when rendering from the Edit Media tab in TriCaster, you have a variety of render options on the way out, including iPod MPEG-4, QuickTime for Apple Mac, MPEG for DVD authoring, AVI for Microsoft. Of course, we have our own proprietary format, and this is the TriCaster format, and we do it with and without alpha channels. So again, we can create motion graphics here with transparency and save them out with that alpha channel and then use them in the DDR back in our live production environment as a graphic overlay. So not only is this a great editor, it's also a great graphics compositing tool for quickly creating motion graphics. We can also save out as Flash and Windows Media to go direct to web with our output from the editor. But again, if I'm going to be using this clip in the DDR inside of my TriCaster, I want to save it out as either TriCaster AVI or TriCaster Overlay with Alpha Channel. And those are our file formats, which will allow you to use those in the DDR and do everything else that the TriCaster does simultaneously without having any kind of performance hit. Now, another way that we can use this editor is to scale our video. And very often, we may be working in 16:9 or 4:3, and someone brings us video clips, and of course they are whatever we're not working in. Murphy's Law, that's always the way it works. Well, you can very easily take a clip into the editor and come up here to the Control tab. And under Control, it brings up our positioner. So with the positioner now, I can, as I move the mouse around, you'll see that the little words underneath the cursor change. So I'm changing my modes here from the rotate mode into the crop mode, into the smoothing mode, into the sizing mode, and as I move around I get all of the different things that I can do to this piece of video. Well, if I've got a 4:3 piece of video and I want to use it in my 16:9 presentation, I'm going to use the sizing tool here, and I'm just going to go ahead and blow this up so that it fills the screen horizontally. And then, because I've sized it, not stretched it, I have room up top here. I can go ahead and I can move this down, get a little bit more headroom in there for what I'm looking at. And now I've effectively sized this clip from 4:3 up to 16:9. Again, at this point, I'm ready to come down here and render this out as my new clip to use as a 16:9 clip in my DDR in my live production in the TriCaster. Now let's go ahead and we'll select this clip and hit the delete key, and that will remove it from our timeline. We'll go back to our media bin, and let's talk about actually editing our video. Now the editor that comes with the TriCaster is one of the fastest editors you'll ever use, and it's great when you're working in that live production time crunch environment. For instance, let's say I wanted to edit these videos together quickly and easily. Well, just like in the requester when you're loading up a DDR, you can hold down the Control key and you can click on the clips in the order that you want to bring them into the edit. It will remember the order, and when we bring them into our storyboard, they're already in that order, ready to go. Now we do have a timeline, and I can get to it by clicking Tab right over here, and it shows me the timeline. When we're in the timeline mode, to navigate this interface, you want to bring the cursor up into the timeline area, this gray timeline where you can actually see the numbers, and the cursor turns from the actual pointer into a line with arrows going left and right. At this point, you can right-click and hold the mouse button, and dragging the mouse forward and back will zoom you, and dragging the mouse left and right will allow you to pan. So it's very easy, and it's also mouse sensitive. So if I wanted to zoom in to the end portion, I would put the cursor right over the end portion, right click, and when I zoom in, I'm zooming in right on that end portion. Again, if I want to zoom in the beginning, put the cursor over the beginning. Now I'm zooming in on the beginning portion. So that's how we can navigate our timeline. You can also, with nothing selected in the timeline, if you double click in this unused gray area, it will automatically auto-fit the entire project so that you can see the entire thing. Let's go back over to the storyboard. This is the way that I like to work, especially when I'm trying to do quick and dirty edits to get them done and get them into my live production. Storyboard is very visual and very conceptual. I can see the project right in front of me, and if I want to make changes, I literally just grab a video clip and drag it to wherever I want it to be in the edit. I can left-click and drag out a box and multiply select clips. Again, left-click on the selected clips, and I can move them as a group in the edit. Now, what about setting in and out points? We can go to the right or the left side of the clip and hold down the Alt key. And you'll see that the cursor turns into an in point. Now, left clicking and dragging allows me to set the in point right on the storyboard. Again, if I come over to the right side and hold down the Alt key, I can now see. You'll notice the two lines in the icon right here, and the purple line represents my video in and out points, and the green line represents my audio in and out points. You can also do things like split edits. We can hold down Alt and Control at the same time, and now we can adjust the audio separate from the video. So we could have the audio continue past the video, or we can have the audio stop before the video stops. And we can, of course, do that on the front end just as easily. Once we do have in and out points set on a clip, we may want to change the portion of the clip that's playing back, but not the duration of the clip. Here we hold down Alt and Shift, and we can now do slip and slide, and we can move the in and the out point at the same time. Again, we're just changing the portion of the clip, not the duration of the clip at that point. So we can go through and set all of our in and out points this way. We can also come here traditionally in the timeline and set in and out points the way that we would normally set our in and out points. You can grab the end of a clip and you can adjust it normally the way that you would adjust a clip in any timeline. And we can, of course, adjust the in point just as easily. I can also select the clip and right-click on it and disable the audio or the video if I just want to use one or the other. Now that I've got my clips in the order that I want them to play, I want to put some transitions in between the clips. The easiest way of doing this is hitting Alt-F. Alt-F on the keyboard is going to put a fade in between every clip that's currently selected. And if no clips are currently selected, it's going to treat everything as being selected. So Alt-F will put a fade in between every clip for me instantaneously. Again, if I go back to my timeline, we can now see that we have transitions in between all of our clips. At this point, I'm ready to add an audio track. Adding an audio track is as easy as dragging it onto the timeline. I'm going to come out and find my audio clips, find the track that I want to use, and drag it down. There are no audio or video tracks in this editor, so we can put as many audio and as many video layers in here as we want. There is no limit whatsoever. Using standard definition clips, we're probably going to get 4 to 5 layers before we ever render anything. And any renders that occur inside the editor are background renders. So they do not stop you from continuing to work. They render in the background. Most of the time, you don't even know it's happening. I now have my audio clip in my project. I'm going to go to the end of the project now. And if I want to go ahead and stop the audio clip right there, 2 keyboard shortcuts that I use very often are I and O for in point, out point. So first I want to find the in point because there's some stuff happening with the music here in the beginning. And I want to start, I'm going to zoom in, I want to start right about here. So with the audio clip selected, I hit I for in point. It now sets that as my in point. Now I go to the end of my project, and again the audio clip still selected. I hit O for out point, and I've now set my in and my out point on my audio. We can also set in and out points on video clips this same way. Select the video clip, scrub to the portion where you want the in point to be, and hit the I key for in point. Now since I had a transition set up on the end here, it had to move the clip in. I made it shorter. I'm going to select this transition. Let's zoom in on this area. And another interesting thing about this editor is if I take 2 clips and I simply push them together, it will automatically create a crossfade between those 2 clips for me. Now, all of the audio associated with these video clips I don't need. So I'm going to select all of the audio and hit the delete key. And I've just removed the audio. Now I want to move this track up. With one track, of course, I could just slide it up, but another interesting trick is we can collapse the empty tracks. And this is going to collapse everything down as best it can. Again, because I shortened that clip, my audio is now going beyond the video, so I can just get to the end of the project, select the audio, and hit the O key to reset the out point. Now I may want to fade the audio up. So again, I'm going to zoom in, and I also have on my timeline, I have a little magnifying glass down here that I can left click on, and I can zoom vertically. Zoom vertically. So we can zoom in and see what we're dealing with here. Now, as I move around even a clip, you'll see that my cursor says in point, where I can set the in point, but as I come down here, it turns into FD, and this stands for fade. So this will allow me to manually put a fade up right in that clip. And again, if I play that from the beginning, space bar is your keyboard shortcut for playing and pausing. We can see that we have a nice fade up going on now, which is what I wanted. Now if I want the music to fade up, I can do the same thing. Come down here until it says FD on the bottom, left click, and drag in an audio fade. And you can see the audio fade right on the waveform as you drag it in. Okay, I'm going to click in the gray area to make sure that nothing is selected, and now I'm going to double click in the gray area, and that'll auto fit my project. Let's go to the end of the project and do the same thing. We're going to come out here to the end. I zoom in with my right mouse button, pushing away. I'm going to grab the fader handle and put a fade out, grab the music fader handle, and equal that fade out. So now we have a nice fade out at the end. Now I've got a basic project put together. I've got ins and out points set. I've got transitions in. I've got a nice music bed underneath it. Now maybe I want to add a title. We simply come up. Again, we want to be in our Media Bin tab, and we want to click on Titles. Here we have access to our templates, and the TriCaster comes with a wide variety of templates, just like in our Text tab and our Edit Text tab. We have templates that we can use. We can scroll through and see a wide variety of these. If I want to use one of these, I can simply grab it and drag it right down onto the timeline. I'm going to scrub the time bar over it, and you can see that we now have our CG in here. Now with the CG selected in the timeline, I'm going to come up to Controls, and I now have my CG controls right here. So I could very easily come in. Again, I have my text tool selected. I'm going to come over here to the name. I'm going to click in front of the name. I can now delete that name out and type in whatever name I want. And I'll go to my selection tool, and we've got this text box down here. Again, I can reposition that, change the text, or maybe I just want to hit the delete key and completely get rid of it. So I can customize these very quickly and easily to my own look and feel. And again, we're going to zoom out just a little bit here, and we're going to zoom in on this title that we created, and it also has fade handles. So we can do a fade up and a fade down. And again, if we play this, now, maybe it's a little bit long and I want that title to be shorter. I simply grab the edge of the title and I shrink it down. Let's play it again. So now you can see how we can very quickly and easily put in clips, create in and out points. We can put our transitions in. We can add audio. We can also add titles. We can also animate titles inside of the TriCaster. I'm going to delete the title that we just had made. I'm going to go back to my media bin, and instead of using one of the templates, I'm just going to use a title page. Let's just drag a title page down, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit so we can see what we're working with, and I'm going to shrink it up a little bit. I'm going to drag my time bar so that it's over the top of it, so as I start manipulating it, I'll see it right on my screen. And again, with the CG selected, I'm going to go to the Controls tab. Let's go to Title, and let's go ahead and type in a title. I'm going to type in New Tech. Now I'm going to select the Selection tool, and again, I have styles in here, just like in live text. I can choose whatever style I want. It's got little handles on it in the selection mode that I can grab and size, and move, put the text wherever I want it to go. Again, if I come back over here to alignment tools here, so I can say center up horizontally and vertically, put it right in the middle of the screen. And now I want to animate it. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Positioning tab inside the title area. So I go to Positioning. Now I can animate this text. So again, as I move the cursor around, I get all my different options: move, crop, smooth, rotate, all these different things. Well, what I'm going to do with this clip is, with the clip selected, I'm going to hit Q. Q will automatically take you to the very first frame of any selected clip. Now, in the positioner window, I'm going to move the mouse out here until this says rotate. I'm going to right click and I'm going to rotate this to where it's on its side. Now I'm going to hit W. W takes me to the last frame of the selected clip. And now I'm going to go ahead and spin this around one rotation to where it's flattened out on its other side. And if we play this, we'll see that we now have a rotating new tech. We would have had a rotating new tech if I would have keyframed any of that. All right, I need to, hold on. I'm going to start with, now I want to animate the text. And I was here. Now I want to animate the text, so I'm going to go to the Positioning tab inside of the titler. I can now animate this text over time. I'm going to hit the Q key with the CG selected, and Q takes me to the first frame of a selected clip, and W takes me to the last frame of a selected clip. So again, Q to go to the front of a clip that's selected, W to go to the back. So I hit Q, it takes me to the first on keyframe. I'm then going to move out until my cursor says rotate. Now, if I rotate with the left mouse button, it rotates on this. I'm going to reset that. If I rotate with the Y, I rotate on the other two axes. So I have full three-dimensional rotation on this object. Let's go ahead and reset that again. So again, at my first frame, I'm just going to rotate this so that it's flat on its side. Just like that. And again, we have a keyframe set there. Now I'm going to hit W. That takes me to the last frame. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate this around so it makes 180-degree rotation, ending up flat on this side. And because I had already made a keyframe at the first frame, when I went to the last frame and I made a change, it automatically for me at the last frame. Now if I play this back, you'll see that we have a rotating new tech. Now, one interesting trick that you can do is, I'm going to select this CG, I'm going to hold the Control key down and left click and drag, and that's going to make a copy. So I just cloned the clip. I'm then going to butt that clip right up against the other one. Select that clip and go to Title. Again, with the text tool selected, I can now erase what's currently in here and type something new. Let's type TriCaster. Again, I can use my alignment tools to make sure that I'm aligned. And now we're going to play both of those clips back to back. You can see this is a very cool animated text effect and very quickly achievable inside of the Edit Media tab in your TriCaster. Okay, so if we're happy with our presentation here, again, we would just come down to the Render button. We would render this out so that we could, again, use it as a clip in the DDR inside of the TriCaster. Now again, if you took everything out of this, if I just left click and drag across everything except the CG, You could render just the CG out by itself as a TriCaster video. Let's go to render, and we would render this as TriCaster overlay, AVI with alpha channel. That would then become a animated motion graphic that you could load into the DDR and use as an overlay over any of your video. The last thing that I want to show you is, again, something that you could use in the live production environment. Very often when people bring you video, it's not the most pristine video that you've ever seen, and we need to be able to do something with it. Well, we can do it very quickly and easily with the editor inside of our TriCaster, and a prime example of something like this would be image stabilization. So let's say someone brings me a clip, and we're going to use this clip as our example. And this clip is going to be bouncing all over the place. I want to be able to stabilize this clip. To do that, I simply go to my tool shed, and the tool shed has a variety of tools. Right down here we have presets, markers, transitions, video, and wizards. I'm going to go into video, and with the video clip selected, I'm simply going to say I want to stabilize the video, and I'm going to click perform. It's going to go ahead and analyze the video for me, and it is going to move the video around in real time and create a stabilized, non-destructive version of the stabilized video. Now, because we're working with 4:3 video in a 16:9 aspect screen, we will see the video bouncing around, but we can fix that as well. So here is our stabilized video, but as I said, we see the edges moving around. So if we wanted to, we could now simply go into our Control tab. I'm going to hit Q, and I'm going to blow the video up. Now we can see that we have our stabilized version of the video, and it's even full screen, even though we started with 4:3 content and we're working in 16:9. Again, we would be ready to render this out into a clip we could use in our DDR in our live production environment. There is also a standalone version of this editor that's a little more powerful. It's called Speed Edit. Speed Edit is also available from your NewTek reseller and could be run on an external laptop where you could prepare video and again bring it across the network for use in the TriCaster. For more information on Speed Edit, check out the NewTek website and talk to your NewTek reseller. Now let's talk about recording and streaming the final output of the TriCaster. Let's go to the Record and Stream tab, and we've got two sections. We have our Stream to Internet section and our Record to Disk section. Now, recording to disk allows us to record the final output of the TriCaster, and we have two options here. We can either record the live output, which is going to record everything, including overlays, virtual sets, the whole 9 yards, or we can say that we want to record the effects row on the switcher. And if we do that, it's only going to record whatever input is selected on the effects row. This would be a way to record just one isolated camera if you're not using the effects row to switch to anything else. If you are recording the effects row and you do start switching on the effects row, it will record that switch. Of course, again, recording live output is already of the time. Now, we have the ability to give our live output a file name, and then the location, we click on the button here with the 3 dots on it, which will bring up a requester, and we can now navigate to where we want to record our final output. We also have a little gas gauge down here which shows us how much room we have available, and to record the final output, we simply click on Record Live Output. When we click on this button, you'll see the indicator light start traveling back and forth left to right, and an indication of how long the recording has been going. To the right of that, we have our Stream to Internet section. This allows us to select the stream type from this pop-up. We stream in both Windows Media and Flash, and as we open this pop-up, we see that we have a variety of both pull and push type stream for Windows Media, and then for Flash, we have pushing only. We have a variety of window sizes and bit rates to stream with. And as we scroll down to the bottom, you can see that when we're streaming with Flash, we have the very popular H.264 format, And we have even added some profiles for streaming directly to ustream.com, which is a free live streaming site allowing you to stream your TriCaster content to the internet for free. When we're pulling a stream, we select our profile, and the viewer is going to have to be able to see our TriCaster across the network line of sight. What this means is there can be no firewalls in between. This can be used if I'm just trying to stream to 1 or 2 people inside my own company, or if my streaming server is set up to pull from the source. We can also push, and when we push, we're going to be pushing from the TriCaster to a URL. This is much more desirable as I don't have to worry about firewalls or anything like that. I'm pushing to a URL given to me by the person that's administrating the streaming server or the content delivery network that I happen to be working with. People very often ask me, how do I stream out to the masses? I don't have my own streaming setup at home or in my business. Well, you can find yourself a content delivery network, do an internet search for a content delivery network or CDN, you'll find a wide variety of them, or go to a site like ustream.com, that's the letter U and the word stream, all one word, .com, and sign up for an account, and then you'll have a URL at Ustream that you can push your stream to. Now when we're going to push a stream out, we also get the ability to username and password protect that stream. Start the stream, we simply click on Stream Live Output. Now, we also have the ability to archive that stream, and if we click the Write to Disk button, and we use the button over here, and we select an area that we want to archive our stream to, while we're streaming, we will also be recording that stream either as a WMV file or an FLV file, depending upon whether you're streaming in Windows Media or Flash. At the end of the live production, you'll have that file instantly available to upload to a website so people can now watch that.
The TriCaster system also comes with an option to capture and show replays. The breakout box is called Time Warp and connects to the TriCaster system via USB cable. Let's go over the main components of the replay box. DDR number. The 2 buttons at the upper left select which DDR Time Warp is currently controlling. DDR mode. These 2 buttons control the playback modes for the DDR selected on the Time Warp controller. Transport. This group of buttons provides DDR transport controls, including play, pause, fast forward, and rewind. Jog shuttle. The jog shuttle control operates just like a professional VCR. The control consists of an inner jog wheel and an outer shuttle ring. Playback speed. The playback speed allows the user to select how fast they would like the clip to play back. Clip management. The remove button, labeled RMV, removes the currently highlighted clip, if any, from the selected DDR's playlist. The replay in and replay out allows the users to mark where they would like the clip to start and stop. Find out more online about Time Warp by visiting NewTek's website.